Why can't Nintendo make a good Metroid game? Hey guys, it's One Track Mind, and welcome to a brand new video. You know what? The Metroid Prime series is one that has always had me feeling conflicted. The original game was a great adaptation, maybe one of the best translations of a 2D game into a 3D space ever done. The game propelled Retro Studios into the spotlight for sure, and then the pressure was on to top what they had done. But did they? I think most would say no. Prime 2 Echoes was a fun game, with a darker aesthetic, but the old reliable dark world, light world gimmick was used. Dark Samus, alternate dimensions, whatever. Then Prime 3 comes along, trying to do a watered-down Halo thing? I don't know. I did appreciate how cool Samus' ship felt, though, in that game. Anyway, my point here is, for everything there is to like about the Prime games, there's something equally jank or straight-up awkward that feels off. What is it about this series that they can't get right? Is it because they can't or won't go full FPS? Does the game not translate that well to 3D? And after such a long hiatus, what is it going to take for Metroid Prime 4 to reach the heights of the original Prime? A game whose novelty is long worn thin, or a lexicon title like Super Metroid? Or is that just not possible and those lofty positions will remain out of reach forever? Recently, Nintendo has been teasing a big announcement regarding the Metroid Prime series, but I gotta be honest, when I think of Prime 4, I honestly feel dread. I'm like, here's a game that I'm going to desperately want to love, but I won't be able to because it's going to be Metroid Prime. I'll play it, I'll enjoy it, but I won't love it. So this got me thinking, what could Retro Studios do to make me love Metroid Prime 4? Okay, you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but hear me out. Souls-like Metroid. No, okay, not really, but what's up with the change in perspective to a Souls-like camera? The dilemma with Metroid is that it has always taken place in corridors, and that works for 2D, and it works for 3D from the first-person perspective, but it doesn't really work in any other format. Because of that, I'm thinking a big shift in the philosophy of how we see a Metroid game, but not necessarily how we play it. Cave diving, narrow straits underwater, tombs with underground chambers to explore, architecture of ancient civilizations a la Super Metroid. Honestly, this is sounding a lot like Tomb Raider, but that's exactly what I'm seeing. A sci-fi, futuristic sort of Tomb Raider deal, starring Samus Aran, with well thought out and deliberate combat, powerful tools for traversal, morph ball and all. This also takes the pressure off the studio to make it feel like a first-person shooter because of the camera, even when it isn't anything like that. I also don't think Retro should feel pressured to include multiple planets and space travel. This is something developers doing sci-fi stuff have been attempting to varying degrees of success. Mass Effect did it well, but their planets are essentially just areas that are reached from a nav menu, which is a glorified stage select screen, honestly, rather than through actual traversal. Metroid's big deal is the interconnected world that you have to explore on foot. Selecting an area from a menu doesn't really lend itself well to that formula. But that said, I'm not suggesting they shouldn't do it, just that they shouldn't feel it's 100% necessary. Even though I was joking about the Souls-like thing, imagine an interconnected puzzle box world like in the original Dark Souls. Something that requires less backtracking, a Metroid thing that hasn't necessarily aged well with gamers, but still feels interconnected and reasonable to traverse by foot. This could be a great reimagining of the series that doesn't take it too far out of the wheelhouse of the original. While we're at it, a couple of secret boss fights, shortcuts, and cool items to find couldn't hurt, right? I mean, Super Metroid already has a bonfire system of sorts. Fuck it, Souls-like Metroid, I'm on board now. I'm still kidding, but that said, more memorable boss fights would be great as well. Super Metroid had the giant Kraid boss, who could forget the Crocomire, and the gut-wrenching plot twist during the final showdown with Mother Brain. These moments stuck with players and are still considered highlights in gaming as a culture, which is saying a lot. Do you remember a single boss fight from Metroid Prime? I mean, it's been a while, but I can't. Like, not even one. I don't want to put all the blame on Retro here, but I do want them to step up and make the efforts to create moments that impact the player in these subtle ways that are universal and don't require dialogue or acting. I want you to remember, Samus was silent for a majority of the Metroid titles. And then she wouldn't shut up in Other M, but that's another story. Also, can we talk about how Other M was sexist? Maybe that's for another video. But despite this silence, a story was told, a narrative was woven, moments were experienced, emotions were felt. This is a Metroid thing. This needs to return. Speaking of Metroid things, you know how sometimes the producers of media, like games, movies, etc., miss the reasons why their fans love their products? Think Star Wars and lightsabers. For some reason, Lucasfilms thought we wanted to see 10,000 lightsabers, Jedis doing backflips, new lightsaber colors, fuck it, double lightsaber. Meanwhile, all we wanted was a decent script and characters we cared about. The effects are just that, effects. They aren't the core of why we enjoy cinema. In a similar fashion, I feel like the producers of Metroid have a bit of a foggy idea of why people love Metroid. And our lightsaber, in this case, is Samus' kit of collectible items and equipment. So what's up with some new stuff? And I'm not talking one or two new things. Toss in the ice missiles, call it a day. I'm talking an entirely new kit. How about boots that let Samus defy gravity so she can run on the walls and the ceiling? How about instead of a space jump, we get a jetpack? Speaking of lightsabers, what about a badass laser sword? Or instead of missiles, grenades? There's a world of unexplored possibilities here that are never accessed because Nintendo insists on kitting Samus out with the same old stuff every game. I'm not saying her kit is bad. After all, there's a reason it all keeps resurfacing, but knowing what you're gonna collect before you find it kind of takes some of the fun and anticipation out of seeking the stuff out in the first place. Okay, this is the big one. How about a new villain? Please, stop dreaming up crazy ways to bring Ridley back. He's a great villain. He's a badass. He has a beautiful singing voice. We've established this. We understand this. Let the dragon relax. He's done his job. And while we're at it, Legend of Zelda, I'm looking at you. I got my eye on you. Come over here and sit down. I know it isn't easy to create memorable characters, let alone legendary mainstays in marquee franchises. This is tough work. I get it. But let's get back to work. Let's bust out the pen and paper, loosen our ties, stay late, whatever we need to do to create some new and interesting antagonists to drive these series. Going back to what I mentioned about Samus' kit, the big reveal or the urgency to address a threat is going to be diminished when you know the threat. You've seen the threat. You've defeated the threat multiple times, many times, perhaps with ease by this point. You know their tricks, you know their MO, you know. I understand that leaving Ridley out of a Metroid game, or even, God forbid, leaving Ganon, or some spirit or semblance or ancestor of Ganon, out of a Legend of Zelda title, is taking a risk. You don't want to upset the fans. But this is art. And there is a fact about human nature that applies here. Familiarity breeds contempt. It's only so many chapters people can stand to trudge through with the same proverbial carrot at the end of the stick until people start going, okay, again? Really? But I want to know what you think. Will Prime 4 be great? Should they switch it up this time? Or are you perfectly fine with the formula as it stands today? Let me know in the comments and let's talk about it. Thanks so much for watching this video. My name is One Track Mind. You can follow me on IG, Twitch, and Twitter at One Track Mind TV. Please like and subscribe to the channel for more content, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.